Thunderbolts! Okay, it's not that bad. It's just 5 characters. The most I've done in a video is like 2. 2? Oh. So, 5 characters. I'm not making Taskmaster because she probably dies anyway. I'd like to mention right here, right now, that I'm going to be doing something that I don't typically do for these videos. I'm going to tell you guys when I started working on a character and when I finished them, because I'm sure I'll get certain details wrong with how far out I'm making some of these, and will generally just say the wrong things or something outdated. I do this because I've got a lot of stuff to make coming around the same time this year, and I want to ensure that I get this out on time for the movie. I'm going to start this video with Yelena. I figured I'd do this because despite Walker being my favorite of the bunch, she just seems to be the main character of the movie. Making the body is pretty simple, as with any other body I'd make, going based off some general images and a lot of guessing, I cut out the body. She's about 5'4", so she's going to be a little tiny. I just hope I don't make her weirdly small. I'm starting to work on her March 20th. I start the body by sewing together the torso. Before sewing the crotch area, I stuff it. Then I sew it up. Then I sew the legs in a U shape, leaving the top open to be stuffed. Then I stuff the legs. With that, I attach them to the torso. Then I sew the arms the same way. This time I stuff it, then close it up at the top. Then I sew the arm to the shoulder of the torso. With the body nearly done, I make the head. I sew the triangles on both sides together. Then I put the eyes in. They're just buttons. Of course, if you don't have buttons, you can just use felt, similar to the Jeff video. It doesn't really matter if you have buttons or not. I only used them because I found them in one of my mom's old crocheting kits, and I just started using them for these guys. For most of the facial detailing, you only really need to draw it on, considering it's makeup. Now for the hair. First, cut out these 3 pieces. Sew the 2 together and the triangle on the back. Then sew them to the head. With the hair nearly finished, you can cut out these 2 pieces. That'll be the detailing for the top of her head. Sew the 2 pieces together. Then sew it to the top of the head. Before sewing them down to the sides, I grab a Sharpie and color the hair on the top of her head and her roots. Then I sew her hair down to the sides of her head. With that, I sew the head down to the body. Now I don't know if you've noticed, but women tend to have different outward anatomy to men. Most of them anyway. To be honest, I don't know why I'm being so weird about this. Half of the men I make are given pecs, which is ironic, because 2 of the 3 men in this one don't have them. Like, the actors do, I just didn't think it worked here when making them, because they weren't, like, big enough to really make a difference. You're welcome to do it if you'd like. Anyway, that's it for the body. First I need to start out with a basic jumpsuit, considering that's basically what her costume is. Well, it's like an over-designed jumpsuit, but I need a base. Here's the pants cutout. I sew each leg together, then sew both pant legs to each other. I didn't realize this, but her costume is actually green, which is pretty cool. I think for a costume, green is a hard color to pull off, so it's always nice to see someone do it. And I think this is an example of it working. I especially like the color of the green that they went with. I think it's a really nice shade. Usually I'd say I don't like how MCU movies seem to go with a more muted looking version of a color, but here I think the dark green works. That is, of course, because I think a bright green suit would look a little weird and out of place here. But in that same vein of the costume, have any of you ever seen her comic outfit? It's like actually kind of cool. I'd say I wish that that's what we were doing here, instead of seeing the green suit, but they did that in Black Widow, so I like the white suit though. Like I thought those white suits looked really cool. I also like the black bits on it with the red. I wish we were seeing something like that here, but the green stands out from the team enough for me to be satisfied. I don't want to seem like I'm hating on this movie at all, but I was looking up images to put in the video just for like general reference material, and I saw this fan-made poster. Well, I actually saw a few fan-made posters. One of them was a lineup of Punisher, Deadpool, Elektra, Red Hulk, Agent Venom, and Ghost Rider. Made me wonder, what kind of movie would that be? Like, can you imagine if that was what this was? How awesome that would be? Like, don't get me wrong, I like Bucky and John, and there are more characters in the movie than Bucky and John, but come on! Deadpool? Punisher? fine. I think to be fair, I'd keep Bucky on the team because he fits here. But like, we've got all those other guys in the MCU with the exception of Agent Venom. But that could just be filled by Bucky. Or, I mean, they could probably put Agent Venom in the movie. They could find a way. Or, I mean, put Blade in it. I know that just got cancelled, but still. I'd love to see Blade. Who am I kidding? We're never getting Blade. Well, we're getting him in Rivals. But not the MCU. I wrote this script before Season 2 of Rivals came out, when everyone thought he was going to be the new hero, instead of Emma Frost. So, maybe we won't get him either. Can you believe that they were talking about a Blade movie? Like, we were going to get a whole movie about Blade in the MCU? The vampire guy? We were going to get him hunting vampires? That'd be so cool. But no, Marvel can't decide anything on the movie and it's just a massive mess. Like, does anyone remember the fact that Blade was in Eternals? Well, of course not, because nobody remembers that movie. Not willingly. I low-key hope they don't do anything with that movie. Well, I guess they did 4 years later in Captain America, and there was that episode of What If. But I mean, who cares? Also, isn't there going to be Eternals in that Marvel Zombie show? I'm sure we've seen something that there is. Who cares? Like, not a single person would be disappointed by not seeing Eternals, except for, like, one guy in a TikTok comment section being like, I actually liked Eternals. Shut up. Everyone's opinion is supposed to conform to mine. Specifically. Well, what, are they going to show up in Secret Wars? Get out of here. You can tell me I'm wrong if that movie comes out and they're in it. But right now, I just don't think so. Speaking of Secret Wars, there's a few cameos I think may be in the movie. You can come back to this video whenever that movie comes out and tell me how good or bad I did. Here's my list. Thanos, Nova, Black Bolt. Some references to Spider-Verse, not sure what specific characters. Maria Hill. Maybe more than one Thanos. Captain Carter, Infinity Ultron, and I think it would be cool. Just kind of naming some characters at random. I'm not even confident in these ones. At least one of these will be in there, I think. Now, I didn't want to go for, like, the safer picks, despite me thinking Thanos is a safe pick. I think some other safe picks are probably Howard the Duck, Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man, Hydra Cap, and probably some others. I expect a mention of Kang, but not to see anything. I don't see a world where they show us any more of Kang. Especially since I saw a thing saying Jonathan Majors is guilty, but, allegedly. Allegedly. But don't take my word for it. I don't know what I'm talking about. You know, I actually made a Kang. Yeah, I went and saw Ant-Man and thought, he's supposed to be important. I should make him now before Kang Dynasty. Then that all just royally fell apart. Now I'll probably make a video on how to make Doom if I'm still making videos by the time that comes out. I wouldn't be surprised if I stopped making videos this year. Things are not looking good for me. However, I am saying all this in March, so hopefully by the time this releases, things will be looking up for me. Now with the last stone detail being added, I can do the final step. Painting her. I use silver, black, and gold. The painting process is pretty easy, which is why I just waited till I was done the sewing to do it. There's not even any painted detail on her legs. I finished Yelena on April 4th. Maybe you're thinking, wow, 2 weeks for this? It shouldn't take 2 weeks. Well, that's where you'd be wrong. I actually took 2 different breaks to finish a character and make an entirely other video on a character. That comes in a few months. So, look out for that. It's also just because I'm that bored of making Thunderbolts. Don't get me wrong, she turned out fine. Like, I'm pretty happy with her. But I kind of wish I did better on her face and hair. But it's good enough that it's not that big a deal to me. Something I've got to mention is that the costume is barely layered, which is so nice and refreshing for an MCU costume. Really takes a ton of work off me. Okay, now on to the next guy. With Red Guardian, I began making him on January 14th, 2025. For the body, it's the same as Yelena, but without the private areas.
David Harbour is much taller and bulkier, standing at a solid 6'3", as opposed to Florence's 5'4" stature. Now, I just need to sew the body together. I've gotta say, I'm pretty tired of documenting the process. Thing is, I can't just not do it because every body is different, and I find it important to show what the cutouts look like when they're flat because they'll look different when they're stuffed. Moving on to the head, I put in the eyes, then add the mouth and sew the sides together. Then I stuff the head. Detailing it won't be very hard. I give him eyebrows. Then I attach his beard. I make it 2 pieces, then sew them on. I use this silver paint to paint the gray details on. If you look closely at the finished product, I use brown paint to kind of clean it up. I leave that to dry. Once dried, I use this brown marker to draw on the buzz cut. And let me tell you, do not do this. I messed up so bad. Thank God he has a helmet. If you do have like a brown that matches better to whatever beard color you used, then it's fine. I just didn't have that. For the costume, I decided to use the same red as I used for my Daredevil. I cut out the base for his suit. His actual suit seems darker than this, but I do it anyway because it's the closest I've got. I'd recommend, if you're cutting out the sleeves, to cut them larger than you'd need. Then cut them into 4. I was stupid and cut each strip individually, and it took me way longer than it needed to. I also didn't cut them big enough, because when I sew it on, you can see how bad the seam lines look. I know I stated when I did this earlier, and that's because I just want to make it clear. The reference images I have are super limited on some of these guys. So if I'm missing details or they just don't look that good, it's because of that. My reference isn't good. Ghost is probably going to be the hardest. With the base of the suit finished, I cut out these gloves, sew them together, and put them on. I do a similar thing for the boots. The boots are different though, because I sew them to the bottoms. Then I add the black soles. Then I cut out these leg warmer looking pieces. I think now is a good time to mention that when it comes to detailing and more importantly coloring of this guy, that a lot of his costume depends on the actual weathering of the suit. To be honest, I'm kind of disappointed they didn't just keep the suit from Black Widow. I much preferred that one. I also like the idea of the consistency between costumes, but if you're thinking, you could have made that suit if you wanted to. Shut up, nobody asked you. And as I've been making this, the suit's kind of grown on me, and I do think that it fits in line a lot more with how the roster looks, as opposed to if they did keep the Black Widow suit. He would look more out of place, but I still think that is a better design. I slide on this band around his knee, then add the knee pad. It's simple, only being a square. With it sewn on, I then cut out the thigh armor and the straps. I sew the straps around the thighs and then sew the thigh armor panels. That's it for the sewn details on the legs. Next is the arms. Now I know this looks complicated, but it looks more complicated than it actually is. These are the arm details. First, I start with these 2 pieces. I sew the longer white piece to the back of the forearm. Then I add the white cuff around it. I move up the arm to the shoulder where I add the white stripes to the top of the shoulders. Then I take these 3 pieces which make the shoulder pad. I sew the beige piece to the red one. On the actual suit, they have this messy stitch look to them that makes my job way easier. With it sewn as one, I attach the beige part specifically to the shoulder. Then I sew the other red piece to the shoulder pad. With it all attached, I sew it down to the body. Then I take these strap pieces and sew them to the armor to make it look like it's holding it down. Now I add some painted details. I think giving these costumes a real look is giving me the realization. Because I'm working on these guys, I'm like, wow, these costumes are actually super simple when I break them down. And I've realized why that is. The budget. I know it's stupid to say, but you can kind of realize it. This movie's got 7 main costume characters that it's got to balance. I mean, you've got to stretch the budget of what you can do with their costumes. But they can't so easily just use old costumes they wore because they got to sell merchandise. So what do? You just simplify the costume. Look at Deadpool and Wolverine, for example. That movie's got tons of costume characters in it, but so many of them are in casual clothes or just generally cheaper costumes. Like, most of the people at the compound are just wearing clothes. They're not like special costumes. Or like Gambit. You know, he looks good, but ultimately his costume is a trench coat. And then he wears like the head and chest piece, which aren't that complicated. It's just getting a mold and painting it. I reckon it probably cost them like around 50k to make, which is a lot of money, but I mean, it's a high quality suit. As opposed to like the actual Deadpool and Wolverine suits, if I looked at them, I've seen people say the Wolverine suit was $1 million. That is insane. 1 million. Like that's like 10 Lambos. That's crazy for a costume. There's no way. For Thunderbolts specifically, it has 7 costume characters who all wear specific outfits, plus the human characters who need to be clothed, like Val. I haven't seen what Sentry looks like yet, but I'm assuming his costume is going to be one of the better costumes, as opposed to when you look at like Bucky, whose costume is a shirt. After making this back armor panel, I cut out these dark red pieces that I sew around the sides of the suit, under the armpit. Then I sew the back armor panel onto the suit. I cut out these strap pieces, which I put over top the red piece. I fold it forward, then sew it down. I cut out the pieces for the chest plate. I firstly sew the beige and the red pieces together, followed by adding these stripe pieces to the upper pieces. I then cut out this star, which I sew on. With that finished, I sew it to the chest. I forgot these little squares, so I sew those on too. With him almost done, I got tired and wanted to go to sleep, so I decided to paint him. With the paint dry, all I need is a few more straps. Here are the cutouts for them. I sew the lighter pieces on first, then fold them back and add the beige piece on top. Then I paint it. That's all for Red Guardian. I finished him on February 1st. It took me 16 days to make him, over 2 weeks of on and off work. I'm just lazy this video. To be fair, Red Guardian isn't a character I care about or was really excited to make at all. The Winter Soldier! I started making him February 19th. I won't lie, I was kind of back and forth on whether I was more excited to make him or US Agent for the video. But then I watched Captain America Winter Soldier after I saw Brave New World, which led me to Age of Ultron and Civil War. After watching those, it's kind of like, come on, Bucky, he's the GOAT. You know, I think this is the first time that I've made a disabled character, at least the first I can think of, though I don't know if I'd really call him disabled. I mean, shit, he's missing an arm, but it's replaced by an awesome metal arm made from one of the strongest, most rarest materials on the planet, with advanced tech that most of the world doesn't even have access to. Not to mention, the super soldier serum running through his veins kind of makes him more able than most normal humans on the planet. But he is missing an arm, so robot arm or not, he's still got disability parking. I think it's appropriate to add that when I was looking up reference to make this body, dude, holy shit, like, Sebastian Stan's workout for Winter Soldier, like, he looks crazy. That's like a dream build right there. Massive respects to that. But also, I mean, you know, personal trainers, personal chefs. Not to discredit any of that, it's just like, wow, I was impressed. I got this brown marker that I draw the eyebrows and the beard on with. I wanted to wait a minute for him to dry though, so I kinda just left him sitting there. Upon being dry enough for my comfort, I start working on the hair. I sew the triangle on the back, then the 2 pieces together. I flip them, then sew them to the head. With the base of the hair attached, I cut out these 2 pieces. I sew the pieces together, then sew it to the top of the head. I drape it down, then sew those sides onto the sides of the head. With the hair finished, the head is finished. I can sew the head to the body now. With the, and I say this with quotations, flesh and bone parts of the body done, I can make the arm. For Bucky's vibranium arm, it's the same cutout as the other arm. It's also made the same way. I think it'd be funny if I used some like metal wire wool to stuff it. Obviously wildly impractical, but it's fun to think about. Now I gotta detail the shit out of this. It's got so many little lines and gold details on it that depending on how much you really care about how this looks, maybe you don't do this. I've decided I'm going to outline where the lines go with a Sharpie. It was kind of hard to find good references for the arm, especially since there was a lot of images that straight up just don't look the same. One of the things I'm realizing right now is that his arm might be black.
I swear in the Black Panther post-credit scene, it was like a silverish look. I'm still going to commit to what I'm doing despite this and hope it's just a lighting thing. If I'm being honest, about halfway through this, I realized that I had no idea what I was doing. This is what I ended up with. I just have to paint it now. The painting process for this is ultimately not that hard, but if you want to have a nice finish, then you'll have to be very patient. Painting it with the needle, I'd recommend going over the material very lightly. Don't press it into the material. I think the best I've ever done using this technique is when I made my Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Don't worry though, because this isn't too difficult. He only took me nearly 11 straight hours to paint him. I timed it. Not just that, but I plan on doing it again when I make his black suit. Then I'll probably have to do the same thing when I make Venom. Adding the painted details isn't insanely important if you choose not to do it, but me, I just wouldn't like mine if I didn't do it. Maybe it doesn't seem like a lot, but when he's finished, it'll be worth it. With the arm done, I just have to wait for it to dry. Then I can sew it to the body. Luckily, I outlined where to sew it. Honestly, it didn't really help at all. Kind of pointless in retrospect, but I do like having the paint done specifically with it in mind. That's it for the body. Now onto the costume. So it looks like Bucky's costume tends to change throughout the film. And by change, I mean he has a jacket and then he doesn't. I'm starting at the legs, then working up. I combed through a bunch of different trailers. There's never really a shot well lit enough to show Bucky's full attire, especially considering he's in all black. But I think he's just wearing normal pants. So I'm going to do that. I think this is probably on me for deciding to make these months and months in advance. I won't lie, I kind of want to make the shirt version. I just think it looks cooler than the jacket. I'm a little worried, however. I'm not very good at making people clothes. I've got this It's Always Sunny Mac that I made. I did this like 3 years ago, so maybe I shouldn't be as hard on myself for how it looks now. I don't know how I sat there and made this and went, yeah, barely fitting clothes are acceptable. Obviously since then I've made characters who have better fitting clothing on, but still, I worry I won't do it as well. Especially since I don't plan on sewing the clothes to each other all that much. It's a little sad to say, but I think the best Bucky's ever looked is in Captain America Winter Soldier. I wish I was making that Bucky instead. This one's not all bad though. It's really nice to take a break from making a harder character like Red Guardian. This part was really easy to make despite being longer than the Red Guardian section. You can thank my yapping about the body for that one. I've got to detail the legs. He's pretty much just the pants, but he's got to have this little knife sheath thing that he has that he wears on his leg that connects to the belt. It's really hard to see it in the reference images. I ended up just looking at the trailer on my computer to have it on a bigger screen where I could go frame by frame. Even then, I still don't really capture all the detail on it, I don't think. It's just really hard to see, and if I'm being so honest, I could care less about this Bucky costume. I'll probably just end up making a new one when the next Avengers comes out. I never liked all the black costumes. Or at least it depends on the character. Obviously Batman is cool, but when I see something like this movie where like half of them are black, because they're not confident enough in the designs to either just make them comic accurate, or it's just cheaper to do it black. It reminds me of the Fox X-Men universe where the costumes almost always sucked because the people making the movies just didn't think they were cool. And were like, oh, yo, it's cool black spandex because Matrix just came out. I think despite complaining about that in this movie specifically, US Agent, totally fine. I think he looks cool. His suit's pretty much just a black version of his Captain America suit. And he's supposed to be black. He's black in the comics. Or like in Far From Home. I mean, that makes sense. It's a stealth suit. Of course it's black. But when you get the black and gold, it's like, what are we doing here? It's the lenses and wires for me. Like, how is he swinging around that suit without, like, the wires just chafing on him, like, all the goddamn time? Not to mention with how tight the suit is, how do we not see the wires and make him look, like, all veiny? And don't get me started on the most egregious aspect of the whole thing. The lenses. Like, that's not how lenses work. They don't bend. How is he wearing them like that? I honestly think with the exception of the red and blue and the black and blue suits in No Way Home, that movie's got the worst cinematic Spider-Man suits. That being the Iron Spider, the integrated suit, and the black and gold. But, this isn't a Spider-Man video. I'll save my MCU costume whining for when I make him for Spider-Man 4 in like a year, or whenever that movie comes out. That's it for Bucky. No, seriously, that's it. He's that easy. But they really just went, he's had enough costumes. I finished him on February 26th. Here's Bucky and Sam together. I gotta say, I'd love to make their Falcon the Winter Soldier costumes, but I'm probably not going to do it anytime soon because they're not their main costumes anymore, which makes it feel pointless to me. There's still some of my favorite costumes the characters have had. Honestly, Sam's Falcon costume in that show is probably like my second favorite one of his costumes. I'd probably rank his top 3 as like his Captain America suit from Falcon the Winter Soldier, number 1, then his Falcon suit, then probably his Brave New World costume, like by default. It's a really close list though, those 3 are really high above the rest of his costumes. Bucky, however, I'd say Winter Soldier is his best look, which I don't think is a crazy take. Then I'd probably say Infinity War. I like the long hair Bucky more. Then after that, I'd say Falcon the Winter Soldier, just because I like the colors. The jacket's nice. The arm looks good. Anyway, on to the next guy. For John's body, he's not particularly built, at least not like the other guys. He's a lot more of a normal dude. His body stands around 6'2", just a little bit taller than Bucky. I think that given how he looks in the film, I won't be giving him pecs. His body type doesn't quite call for it, plus his suit is just kinda baggy. I'm starting work on him on March 4th. I'm getting closer and closer to the date I need them done by. If I'm not done by April, I need to lock in, man. I forgot to do the chin cut. I typically do this for one side, but that's not that big a deal since his facial hair can just cover it up. I just put the head together the same way as I always do. Something I often forget to mention is that using the head cutout as a template, you should cut out the back of the hair before sewing anything. It's a super easy way of getting an accurate full fit cutout. I use this technique all the time when it comes to stuff I make. Anything that's symmetrical is a template for itself, like every piece of the body's base. Luckily, if you're using felt, it sticks to itself really well enough for you to be able to cut it while you're holding it. Making the hair is fairly simple. All you'll need is your hair cutout, which you should have already made. Sew the triangles together on both sides, and then you can sew it to the head. For the beard, I separated it into 2 pieces so I could give it the illusion of more detail through layering. I also make the eyebrows. With both these pieces sewn on, it's time to make the top of the head hair details. His hair is a bit messy, but also kind of matted down, so I try to replicate it to the best I can. It's not very easy though. If I'm being honest, this guy's not bad, but it's just not the best likeness I've ever attempted. Now I can attach the finished head to the body. With that, he's done. I think proportionately, his body actually came out pretty nicely. Now for the costume. Based on the way the suit seems to look, I'm going to have to rely a bit on his Captain America costume because they're basically the same, just a recolor. A lot of the costume's detail just seems to lie in the layering and seam lines, which is a very annoying way to detail a costume. I made this Ben Affleck Batman, and his detail was mainly seams. I don't even know how I achieved this. In my opinion, John's got the coolest costume here. All I've really seen of Sentries is like a Funko Pop leak and an alleged screenshot, so I'm not really counting that. But I'll probably like him more than this. I just prefer my superheroes having color, which is ironic because I'm saying I prefer this to the Red Guardian, who's got color on his costume. But I mean, there's color here, they got the white and the red. It's good enough, right? It's also just one of those comic booky costumes that, like, besides Sentry, I really like. I don't know if I'll make Sentry, maybe if his costume is really cool, or if he's in Doomsday. I always see people say, oh, we're gonna see him in Doomsday. Maybe I'm not being optimistic, but I feel like we're gonna be disappointed with who we do and don't see in that movie. Like, do we really think we're getting Moon Knight in Doomsday? Like, seriously? Or Daredevil? What's he gonna do, a flip? Or like She-Hulk? Maybe she's more possible. I wouldn't be surprised if she's on the new Avengers lineup. Which, in mentioning She-Hulk, y'all need to stop hating on her. She's not that bad. But that's like a whole other thing I'd rather just get into in a different video that's more about her. I think right now the only people I 100% expect to see in Doomsday are Captain America, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, which probably means Wong, Captain Marvel, and the Fantastic Four. And this is kind of a crazy one, but Doctor Doom. I'm not as solid on Captain Marvel, but I think she will probably be in the movie. Anyone else is fair game, which is like, obviously there will be more than those 10 characters, but I don't think any of them are guaranteed. Like Ant-Man. I mean, he might be in the movie, he might not. Who really cares? Or besides Sentry, literally anyone in this movie. Most likely we'd see Bucky though. Marvel loves Bucky. Speaking of Doomsday, I keep seeing things saying we'll get it next year. As of right now, and I haven't really been following its production, but we're not gonna get it. I don't think so. I think we get it in like 2027. But we don't even have Spider-Man 4. Aren't they supposed to film that this summer? I saw a video of Tom Holland posted on some account of him saying he's running a contest to fly someone out and let them hang out with him on set of Spider-Man 4, so I'm assuming it's this summer. You know, I keep saying that, but it's March right now. By the time the video comes out, we'll probably have more news on what is actually happening. But as of right now, I don't know anything. Spider-Man 4 is likely the only thing in the MCU right now that I care about. Well, that's not fair. I care about Daredevil. And Deadpool and Wolverine is cool. I'm not holding out for them though. Ryan is in his late 40s and Hugh is in his 50s. Not to mention they've said before that they have no desire to keep doing this. You know, I kind of wonder, with Bucky and John having history, I wonder what their dynamic in this movie will be. I imagine it'll probably be what you'd expect, where Bucky is probably being hostile towards John, as where John is like regretful for his actions. Despite, in my opinion, not really doing anything that crazy. Like, yeah, he did murder a man, which is wrong. That is the wrong thing he did. He shouldn't have done that. In a populated area with witnesses, no less. All recording on their cell phones. I understand why he received the punishment that he got, even if I think the show plays up his actions too much. Because, like, let's not forget, that was a man who was a part of the group who had just murdered his friend. They had been robbing banks, they were killing people, they were terrorists. He killed a terrorist. Do I think he should have done it in broad daylight? No, of course not, But he was a terrorist, a straight up terrorist. And then they, like, keep acting like they're not that bad in the show. Like, I rewatched it when I was making Bucky, and that was, like, actually annoying. Like, they just kept acting like, oh, you know, Carly's actually, I think that's her name. Carly's actually kind of chill, guys. I don't know why y'all hating. Because she's a terrorist. Well, she's a super terrorist. She has superpowers. Like, that's like my least favorite part of the show. I think that's dumb. I think that's stupid. For what I personally consider the most complicated costume in the video, I think it's funny that I've largely talked over it rather than actually explained some of the things. Right now I'm just attaching the arm braces. Then I add the elbow pads. With all that attached, I add the finishing touches with paint. It's not as paint heavy as the legs. Next, I can move to the chest. I start out with the collar. This is the same as the Daredevil collar, a piece that is folded in half and sewn down. Since I'm just kind of ping-ponging around subjects, I'd like to actually talk about the costume that I'm making right now. I think considering, as of right now, it's only really in one show, and I guess this movie. I know technically it's in one shot of the show at the very end, but I'm going to be talking about it like it's also the Captain America suit that he wears, because they're pretty much like exactly the same, just recolored. One detail I see often talked about is the star on his chest, and how it's got a strap over it, like he's being strapped down by the government, unlike Steve. But a detail I was thinking about while making this logo is that it's kind of a hybrid between the Captain America star and the A in America. I like to think that this is because it's a combination of the two, and it's representative about how John's Captain America is more a part of the government and they have more control over him, as opposed to Steve. This being shown in the meshing of the two logos, where it blurs the line between Captain America and America itself. Especially considering, despite his name being Captain America, he's often in opposition to what the people in power actually want him to do or expect him to do. There's probably more details I'm missing, like how the flag is more broadly on the chest or something, but I'm not a very smart analyst person, so... Because it's fun for me, I'm going to tell you when I made my other sewing videos. Like my Captain America video, I worked on that for about 3 weeks in November and had it uploaded before December. The Invincible video, I took a break from Captain America and made the Invincible portion of the video in like 2 days. Eve I did 3 weeks later in 3 days because I hadn't gotten the material for her yet. Daredevil, I made that video in less than a week in late December because I was just so hyped for the show. It only took me like almost all of season 1 to make him.
The Sonic video, I think I made that from mid-September till late October. Venom, I made right before the Sonic video in about 4 days, because, I mean, come on, it's easy. And the Minecraft Steve video, 2 days in August. Deadpool and Wolverine, on the other hand, that took 3 weeks from May to June. Then I came back around like a week before the movie to make the cowl. I think of all the how to make videos that I've done, Deadpool and Wolverine is still my favorite. Like, obviously I made ones with better voice work and editing since then, but I think the best sewing work I've done is on those two. For a video at least. The best thing I think I personally made is my Robert Pattinson Batman. I absolutely love him. And I guess I can't leave out the Jeff video and the Mario Brothers video, because the Jeff video, that took me, I think, 8 days, and I made it while making the US Agent video, which I think I mentioned. And the Mario Brothers video also took me 8 days. Those were 2 characters. They were really easy, though.
I made this borrowing the same technique I used for my Daredevil helmet. I think in retrospect that my Daredevil helmet isn't very good, and I want to go back and make a new one. I think my problem is that the head just isn't stuffed enough. So like the jaw doesn't look very good. I also just think since the helmet is textureless and the show's isn't, that it makes mine look weird. Also, I just could have done better when it comes to applying the paint. And to finish off, I cut out and sew onto the strap piece a chin rest. That's it for the sewing of the costume. Now for the paint. I used silver and black paint for the detailing. Everything was going pretty fine, pretty standard, but the paint kept getting stuck every 5 seconds, and it was really annoying, so I went to the bathroom to try and get it unstuck. So I made this minor mistake. The bottle just exploded from how hard I was squeezing it. Now I've got it all over my walls and counter. Some of it landed on the toilet. There's a bit on the wall beside the toilet. It's also on the mirror. It's just a mess. Just, if you're doing this, be more responsible than me. This actually isn't even my first time that this has happened either. I think before this happened with my gold and silver paints. To be honest, when I was doing this, I kind of also just expected this to happen. What happened was I was hoping that the piece may get stuck would just fly out and maybe I'd lose some paint. But no, the whole cap came off and it just exploded all the paint everywhere. It ended up taking me only like, I think 15 to 20 minutes to actually clean the whole thing up. If you're a kid and you're watching this, just don't do this. Ask your parents. The paint I'm using doesn't come out of clothing. I'm lucky I didn't get any on my clothes considering the absolute shotgun blast that this was. Also, your parents are gonna get like so mad at you if you do what I just did. Also, make sure when putting the cap on your paint that it is secure so air doesn't get in and your paint doesn't dry like mine did here. This is just a massive mess. Anyway, after cleaning all of that up, I finished the paint job on US Agent, and now I can move on to the shield. For the shield, this part's pretty easy. You'll just need circles. Then fold the circle in half so you can get a cut. With that cut, just cut out a circle from that circle. This is just a repeat process for each layer of the shield. You'll also need a gunmetal gray to do this with. I think I ultimately cut 4 of these circles and then a solid gray one in the middle of the shield for the center. This part is a little frustrating to narrate because there's a lot of like just really simple things going on that I don't need to tell you about. Then carefully sew all the circles down to the base of the shield. In the video I did this in about 10 seconds, but in real time this took me like 30 minutes to do. If I'm being honest, I thought it would take even longer. Next you'll want to cut out the plastic mesh piece and sew that into the shield. Again, here's another instance where it's just kind of dead air, and like I've already explained what to do. So now it's just me doing it. I'm good at these videos, guys. That almost makes the full shield. You'll lastly just need these strap pieces. If you see my Captain America video, then you'll know that you just need to fold it in half and sew it down to the shield on 2 points. Then you can slide the shield over your US Agent's arm. That's it for US Agent. This is definitely the one that I'm the most proud of this video. I think I have very clearly put the most effort into him, and it shows. I finished him on March 19th. I know that's like 15 days, which is 2 weeks, but in reality, I only actually spent 5 of those days in total working on him. In between that, I made my Spider-Man and my Jeff from Marvel Rivals. I think Jeff took about 4 days and Spider-Man took 8. Those were hard. Here's him with Bucky and Sam. Never thought I'd make all 3 of these guys. Actually, I didn't think I'd make any of them.
Someday.
Starting off with the body. I don't need to show a process on how to do it. We're on character 5. We know what we're doing, right? Obviously this isn't it. I've still got to make the head. Anyway, I do the basics. Your face, sewing it up, and stuffing it. The stuff we know. Then, because she wears makeup, I use this Sharpie to draw on her eyebrows and a pink fabric marker for the lips. Then comes the hair. Like Yelena, it's short. Only because it's tied up though. I want to try and make the hair so it fits under her mask. I firstly make the bangs. They're super easy little strips I sew onto the top of the head. Then I make the little bun, the same way that I make the Mario and Luigi noses if you watch that video. I take a circle, cut it like the head, then pull the thread to close it up. Then attach it. It's smaller than I'd hoped for, but I don't really mind, because it doesn't need to be that big. I gotta say, she's not as bad as I thought. I figured I'd do worse on the body, but the head turned out well enough. Now for the costume. I start out with a black base. I think out of all these guys, if Ghost gets a new costume on Doomsday, I might be more inclined to make it. Nothing really against it, it's just, this costume's kind of boring. Well, actually, I do Bucky too, but that's if they gave him a costume. They'll just give him shorts, just progressively less and less of a costume. I don't know why they do that. Bucky's not the easiest to design for. I mean, he's had his Winter Soldier suit, a Captain America suit, and his old suit from the 40s. At least, that's all I can think of off the top of my head. To be fair, it's not like they can't just whip something up for him. They've got tons of very skilled costume designers and artists, but then again, compared to the wider MCU, I don't think Bucky's costumes are that important. Nothing against them either, they're just... I don't think he's a character who needs a costume as much as, say, Spider-Man or Ant-Man or Thor. Or... Those guys should all have some costume. I think it would be weird if they didn't. You know what I'm wondering? Why is this movie so reliant on the Black Widow movie? Like, all of these movies in the MCU, I didn't expect Black Widow to matter 5 years later. Like, we're looking at Yelena, Red Guardian, Taskmaster, and Val, who I'm pretty sure originated from the Black Widow movie. I think she shows up in the post-credits scene to set up the Hawkeye series. I'm pretty sure. There's a character I'd be surprised if I made a video for. I actually already made a Hawkeye when I made the Avengers. I made him in his Ronin suit, which I think is his best suit in the MCU. To be fair, there's not much competition. Like, I get it, you know. This one in Hawkeye is made by LARPers, so I don't expect it to be crazy good. I actually appreciate that it isn't, because that would be funny if they just gave him this costume, and it was like this beautiful MCU-made costume. But no, it's a shirt and pants. It's realistic to what they're capable of, which I really like. I know they just added the Ronin costume to Marvel Rivals, which is like, it was a matter of time. Hawkeye doesn't really have a lot of iconic looks, but there's something about it that just doesn't appeal to me. I think the way the gold and the black are laid out on the costume could look better. This is in no way me trying to say I could do better or putting down the costume designers. It's just really not for me. Why am I talking about Hawkeye while making a Ghost costume? They've never crossed paths. They have nothing to do with each other. To be honest, I'm really scrambling for things to say. There's really not a lot left that I want to talk about. This costume also just isn't something I'm super excited over, so I don't have a lot of opinions on it. I guess I don't think it's bad. Like, sure, an all-black costume can be boring, but at least this one makes sense. She's a contract killer and an assassin or whatever, so I get why she wouldn't want to go out in all white and do hits. I guess it's just in the current age of superhero content that we get, I expect more because of such great comic costumes. Like, I'd say going all the way back to the first Iron Man movie, that one was great. I love that costume, even the one from Avengers. Or like, both of the TASM movies. Yes, both. I love them both. Both of them are good. Most of the MCU costumes are also pretty good.
Most of them. Ant-Man still exists. Ant-Man Quantumania, specifically. Those costumes suck so much. Ben Affleck's Batman. Wonder Woman. The Batman. Not the Flash movie. Aquaman. The new Superman. And the costumes from that movie. Blue Beetle. We get a lot more better, more comic accurate stuff. But again, I don't think this is bad. It's just, it's fine to have an all black costume once in a while. Now I can work on the chest detailing. It looks more complicated than it actually is. There are some details, however, I just fully decide to leave out. Like, I couldn't do some of the lines on the side pieces of the armor because there just simply was no space for them. Don't let the camera fool you now. The black doesn't actually look like that in person. In person, the spandex and the felt look about the same. However, on camera, it looks like an olive black. It's fine though. I still think she looks good. It's about now that I'm looking at the chest armor on her and I'm thinking in its current state. Like, is it just me or does she look very alien? Like, specifically the aliens from the Alien movies. Like, there's just something about the way the chest comes together. So insane poll here. I was looking for references for Sentry because obviously I'm not going to make him in this video, but I want to make him. Probably for Doomsday, which is in a full year from the day this video releases, so look out for that. Like, I mean, yeah, not exactly a year, it's like 1 day off, whatever. Anyway, while looking for references for him, I found this behind the scenes photo of Ghost from the back. Like, what an insane pull. Now I have reference for the back of her costume, which is so lucky. I had no idea how I was going to find that otherwise. You know, I should really go back to solo characters. These multiple characters per video is just, it's too much. For the skirt, it's 5 pieces. It's got this, what it looks like to be silver lining on each piece, so I try to get a more subtle silver line around the edges of the pieces. Doing this with a pin and smearing the paint in took me about 40 minutes total. Very long, annoying process made even worse by the material stretching. When I'm done with that, I use the black paint to paint the black lines on the skirt, then wait for it to dry. This takes like a few hours because it's more densely together. Once dry, I can sew them on. I start at the back to get an idea of where to put the rest. Then I sew on the other pieces. I also sewed them together at the bottoms just to make sure they don't fly all over the place and look bad. I want it to stay consistent. Something kinda nice about this video is that I haven't made any of these guys because why would I? But that gives me the opportunity to do all of them here. Now for the belt. The belt is a simple strip piece that I sew together and put on the costume. Before detailing the belt, I cut out, sew together, and attach this strap piece that runs across the chest. Now for the actual detailing of it. It's got about 6 pouches and 2 buckles. I sew all of them on in a time lapse because it felt like it would have been easier to record rather than just holding the camera. Also, I've already shown you how to do pouches. These ones are smaller, however. This is actually a lot longer of a time lapse than I had anticipated. When I'm finished that, I cut out the hood. It's these 2 weird pieces. I'm not going to make it wearable because it would look bad and be a waste of material. With the hood done, that's pretty much it for Ghost. To be honest, she's actually... No, I'm not done. I gotta make the helmet. It's the coolest part. For the helmet, it's multiple pieces. I start by sewing together these 3. Then I cut out and sew this piece that covers the rest of the face. That's all for the white parts. I make the back of the helmet piece, which is practically a black square. I sew it on, making sure to avoid the hair bun. Then I cut out the black pieces for the side of the helmet. These ones are a little harder to sew in due to their odd shape. That's pretty much the helmet. I just need to make this little neck piece to cover up the last of the body. I just sew it into the helmet. And then for my final detail, I take this glow-in-the-dark paint and paint on these dots on the helmet. Now, she's finished. I'm finished! I'm finally finished! No more Thunderbolts! I'd like to thank my mama and my kindergarten teacher for setting me on a path to complete this. If it weren't for you guys, I'd never have made it this far. I'd also like to thank you, my father, for being in my life. Not many kids have that nowadays. I've got to say, it's honestly a miracle this video was even made. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to give up on this project or just straight up didn't care. Like, I'm not exactly passionate for Thunderbolts. I just wanted to meet a movie's release date. I think going forward I should take a look at this project and all the time it took as a lesson that I don't need to cover things I don't care about. Now obviously this is kind of harsh. I haven't seen the film yet. I don't think I'll dislike the movie either. I think I'll probably enjoy it a lot. But as for putting this much effort into it, I don't care about it that much. Like Captain America, I enjoyed that movie enough. I put a bunch of effort into making that video, but not nearly as much as this one. I put a deserved amount of effort in. I made Cap. I didn't make his wings. I don't plan on it. More work than it's worth, but I'm satisfied with that. Plus, I really like my Captain America. He's really good. Now, a different version of me could have made Cap, Falcon, and Red Hulk, but I didn't. I thought about doing Red Hulk, but did Daredevil instead. Now for how hyped I was for Daredevil, I would have made him, Fisk, Punisher, Bullseye, and Muse, but I didn't do that because I was just too lazy. Also, that's a lot of work. You have to understand, I needed to make Jeff and the Mario Bros. I had to, but I digress. Point is, this video existing is a miracle and was so close to just not happening. I think I wanted to give up after every character I made. Now I want to put in perspective here. Yeah, this video is long. In fact, my longest sewing video having taken me 4 months to work on. And you know 100% I'm just going to drag and drop this video into my Avengers video when I upload that. So, can you imagine how long that'll be? This is just 5 characters. Imagine 27. And that's just what we know of right now. As for writing this, we're getting more castings. If it takes me like 8 minutes on average to make a character, then that video will be 3.5 hours at the minimum. That is if I make every character, which I probably won't. So what do I think? Was it worth it? No. No, it wasn't. Don't do this. Unless you are really passionate about these characters or really like the movie, don't do this. I sunk way too much time for it to be worth anything. 4 months. 4 whole months. I've been doing this all year. I will say I am proud of each of these guys and think that I did a better job than I expected for all of them. Especially on Ghost and Yelena. Bucky's lame though, I straight up didn't try on him. You know, in saying that, you'd think maybe I'd take a break. No! I'm going straight into Fantastic Four. Actually, I've already started on them. While making Yelena, I took a break to make and edit the Mr. Fantastic portion of that video. I am unstoppable. As always, I hope this video was useful to you if you, for some reason, wanted to make any of these guys, and if not, then hopefully this was just entertaining. I've got an Instagram, so you can check out all of the stuff that I make on there. You can also send me your Thunderbolts, if you made any of them, over on there. I'll probably check my DMs. Man, the MCU is just thriving this year in terms of me making characters from their projects. What's next on the slate for the characters I want to make? Oh my god!